Between Detroit and Windsor, Ontario, there is one bridge, built in 1929. Every single day, 10,000 trucks cross it, carrying $323 million in goods, roughly 25% of all surface trade between the US and Canada. That bridge, privately owned by one family, has been the only crossing at this point for nearly a century. For 40 years, every attempt to build a second one was blocked by that same family. In July 2026, the Gordie Howe International Bridge opened and the family lost. It happened because Canada paid for most of it, a hockey legend's name was deployed as political armor, and a sitting president was outmaneuvered on his own turf. The Ambassador Bridge opened in 1929 and was privately built and privately owned from the start. The Moroun family acquired it in 1979, and what followed was one of the most effective monopoly defenses in the history of American infrastructure. The Detroit-Windsor crossing was always critical. The automotive industry built itself around it. Parts manufactured in Michigan crossed to Canadian plants. Finished vehicles came back. Pharmaceutical companies, technology firms, and agricultural producers all depended on the crossing. By the 2000s, the Ambassador Bridge was the busiest commercial border crossing in North America, and the Moroun family collected every toll. They also spent decades ensuring nothing could compete with them. When Michigan and Ontario began seriously planning a second crossing in the early 2000s, the Morouns sued to stop it. When the project moved forward anyway, they ran advertising campaigns. When politicians backed the public bridge, the family donated to their opponents. A 2012 Michigan ballot measure backed by the Morouns to block the public bridge failed, but it delayed the project by years. Matthew Moroun, who took over from his father Matty, donated $1 million to a Trump super PAC in January 2026. In February 2026, President Trump announced he would not allow the Gordie Howe Bridge to open until the U.S. was fully compensated for everything we have given Canada. The finished bridge sat closed, customs booths empty, 6 lanes idle, $6.4 billion of completed infrastructure going nowhere. The way the Gordie Howe Bridge got built in the first place is a lesson in how to outmaneuver a well-funded private opponent. When Michigan made clear that state funding was going to be politically difficult, Canada made a decision that appears almost irrational at first glance. It offered to pay for almost the entire bridge itself. The structure would be financed by the Canadian federal government, built by the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority, a binational entity, and paid back over time through tolls collected on both sides of the border. Michigan contributed infrastructure on the U.S. approach roads, but not the bridge itself. The total cost was approximately $6.4 billion. Canada's share was the overwhelming majority. The logic was straightforward. Canada's economy needed this bridge more than any political calculation did. The Ambassador Bridge's age and single point of failure status was a genuine supply chain risk. A Canadian-funded solution removed the main obstacle that had been blocking the project: American legislative resistance. The naming was a calculated move of a different kind. Gordie Howe was arguably the most beloved figure in the history of the Detroit-Windsor relationship. A Saskatchewan-born Canadian who spent 25 seasons as a Detroit Red Wing, beloved on both sides of the river. Naming the bridge after him made opposing it politically toxic. Nobody wanted to be the politician who voted against the Gordie Howe Bridge. Obama backed it. Biden backed it. Trump, in his first term, backed it. The project had survived administrations and survived the Moroun family's legal challenges. By late 2025, it was 98% complete. The Gordie Howe International Bridge is 2.5 kilometers long and crosses the Detroit River with a main cable-stayed span of 853 meters. That makes it the longest cable-stayed bridge main span in North America and the 10th longest in the world. 6 lanes of vehicular traffic, a dedicated pedestrian and cycling pathway separated from traffic by a barrier, and full customs and border inspection ports at both ends. It was designed for a 125-year service life. The Ambassador Bridge, by comparison, was designed for a 50-year service life and is currently 97 years old. The Cross-Border Institute calculated in 2021 that the Gordie Howe Bridge would save approximately 850,000 hours of truck crossing time annually, translating to billions of dollars in economic savings across the bridge's lifetime simply through reduced congestion at the single existing crossing. Construction began in 2018. 8 years of work, zero major structural problems, and a project that came in near its original cost estimate. By the standards of North American infrastructure megaprojects in 2026, this is essentially unprecedented. In February 2026, the bridge was finished. It had sat complete since late 2025, waiting for the U.S. side to set up customs operations. Then Trump threatened to block the opening entirely. The New York Times reported that Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick met with Matthew Moroun hours before Trump's post went up threatening to block the crossing. Both U.S. Senate candidates in Michigan's Democratic primary immediately tied the holdup to the Moroun family's $1 million Trump PAC donation. Former Republican Governor Rick Snyder said publicly, "The only party that benefits from the bridge being closed is the Morouns." The political pressure was immediate and bipartisan. Michigan is a swing state. Blocking a bridge that creates jobs, relieves congestion, and carries the name of a Detroit legend was not a sustainable position. By June 2026, a ribbon-cutting ceremony was postponed again, officially due to outstanding issues between the two countries. But negotiations continued. On July 10th, both countries confirmed a July 27th opening date, with the U.S. and Canada agreeing to split toll revenue for 15 years with the American share going into a regional economic development fund. On July 27th, 2026, at 10:30 in the morning, the first vehicles crossed. Gordie Howe's grandson drove one of the first 10 cars over. Canadian border officers handed each vehicle a commemorative postcard. The Moroun family's 40 years of monopoly protection ended at 10:30 a.m. on a Monday morning. The Moroun family is not done. After spending 4 decades and millions of dollars blocking the construction of a competing bridge, they have announced plans to build their own second span next to the Ambassador Bridge, a private second crossing to complement their existing private crossing, to compete with the public crossing they spent decades preventing. The company that blocked a bridge for 40 years has now decided that a second bridge is actually a good idea. They just wanted to be the ones to build it. Here is what changes now. The Ambassador Bridge carries roughly 40,000 vehicle crossings per day. The Gordie Howe Bridge is projected to absorb a significant portion of that traffic, particularly commercial trucks that benefit from its modern facilities and dedicated truck lanes. For the first time since 1929, no single family controls whether those trucks can cross. The redundancy that supply chain planners have been asking for since the 1990s is finally there. The bridge is named after a man who played hockey in Detroit for 25 years, who was Canadian, and who embodied exactly the kind of cross-border relationship the structure is designed to serve. The choice was deliberate. It worked. And on July 27th, 2026, the longest cable-stayed bridge in North America opened 16 days after Gordie Howe's birthday. Some infrastructure stories end with a question. This one ends with a crossing.